Hello and welcome everyone to Insights. I am Nnamdi Adigbo.
And I'm Elizabeth Omori.
On this episode of the program, we will be taking a rather expansive look at the imperatives for national unity and social integration. But of course, just before we get to that, I would recall an interview I had with the Senate Committee Chairman on Media and Publicity, Senator Surajuddin Ajibola, on the values or democratic values in Nigeria. Of course, that's against the clamor for constitutional reforms. Lizzie?
Well, on the media review segment, we'll be taking a look at the style of writing and reporting gender-based violence without shaming the victim and protecting the perpetrator.
Let's get started, but of course, like I referenced earlier, I would begin with recalling my conversation with Senator Ajibola. Senator, we were still in the ambience of the 2021 Democracy Day, and so it will be significant for us to begin our conversation from that angle. At this point of our democratic experience and journey, and knowing that in relative terms to other democracies, ours may still be considered nascent, do you however believe that we're on the right trajectory and that democratic ideals are deep-rooted in our society today?
I will say that on the question of being on the right trajectory, definitely I will say yes. But about whether it is already deep-rooted, I will say we are not yet there. But we are on the right track to definitely get there. I will say this because it has just been since 1999 that we have uninterrupted democratic experience in Nigeria. And of course, there are always building blocks to democratic experience. One of these has to do with the rule of law, independence of judiciary. We also talk of the freedom of the press and the freedom of association, as well as credible election that will be free and fair. Those are part of the parameter by which you can begin to assess ourselves, know where we have fared very well, and where we have challenges in confronting and moving forward in that regard.
Using some of the parameters that you've just outlined, is it possible for you to give us an idea of where you think we stand?
I will start first with the leadership recruitment mechanism.
Please do.
For democratic process, which has to do with the organization of election. I will say that unlike what happened at the beginning of democratic experience, particularly the electoral acts of 2006 and 2007 election, 2003, I think we are getting there gradually as to having credible election. But I also think in this regard, the effort of the present Senate Assembly on having an amended electoral act need to be further expedited upon so that the rule of the game ahead of 2023 election will be no ahead. But we still need to do more, particularly in the area of voters inducement, in the area of violence during election, and of course in the area of reduction of monetization of a democratic process. On the issue of freedom of speech, largely we have made some advances in that regard. But just like any other human right, there are also possible of abuse. So while there has always been a tension between the government trying to regulate freedom of speech in the interest of security, there is also the possible abuse of freedom of speech on the part of citizens. And this, we need to talk about the phenomenon of fake news and unnecessary propaganda, which are capable of undermining the fabric of our society. So then on issue of freedom of association, I think largely we have done very well in this regard. People are free to form political association and political party, and they are free to join and be member of those political parties. But then there have been some distortions, which is affecting the quality of our democratic experience. And in this regard, I will talk about the so-called idea of internal democracy within a political party. The idea has bastardized ideological stance of political party. The classical idea of a political party is a group of people having some ideals and some program on what they want to project and they want to make to be their program for the people. But when you now make it compulsory that all political parties must have a uniform arrangement for the emergence of their leadership, and I'll give an example. An ideological political party, you want to feed a candidate because of the grandness of a particular person in the ideology of the party. The person may not have necessary wherewithal to be able to even mobilize the people in that regard. And they may want to put in their best looking at their own set parameter. But with this idea of so-called internal democracy, it undermines ideological content of our democratic experience. And the people are in the position in the general election to judge if a party has chosen a candidate that is not popular, to reject such candidates, but to have a double level of what is called democracy, internal democracy and general election, it is costly and also undermine ideological content and stance of political organizations.
Senator, while you were talking about the issue of monetization of the democratic process, of course you meant the elections there, it just occurred to me that there have been arguments in the past, people pushing the blame to the political class, that in fact the function of the grandstanding and gerrymandering obtainable within the system that is responsible for the monetization of the political process. Is this an argument you vary or agree with?
I think it's not. I see every evil in the political process are easily laid at the doorstep of the political class, understandably so. But we must have a broader understanding and perspective of this if we are going to be able to stem this tide, or to stem the tide of the challenges. One, I would say that voter education and voter enlightenment is also very crucial.
Very true.
The question of monetization has both the demand and the supply side. As an experienced politician, and I say it with all sense of humility, I've been in public service for a period of close to 12 years. I know that notwithstanding the delivery you must have done, if you don't have the necessary resources to oil your political machinery, you may well be rejected by the same set of the people that you are out to serve. So there's a need to deepen our democratic culture, to deepen enlightenment, and of course there's also the need to further empower our people so that those mundane things that are used to induce them will no longer matter to them. And what I mean by this, we need economic empowerment of our people for them to engage in product activity, and when they are economically empowered, economically energized, those pittances that are used to induce them will not matter.
Exactly.
But you need to deepen understanding of our democratic culture and what is required.
I agree with you entirely on that front, Senator. It is important to promote economic reliance and dependence, and that way it would also curb incidents of monetization of the democratic process. But Senator, let's quickly go ahead here. And when we talk democracy or enhancing democracy, it's clear that the Constitution not only remains fundamental, but it is also key to achieving that. I'm sure you've expressed your view on the ongoing constitutional amendment process on other platforms. It's been there in the public domain. However, I'd like for us to backtrack a little and appraise the foundation of our current constitution as a written document and subsequently as an object of governance. Where do you stand as regards that and the argument that the problem with the current constitution emanates from the source? And by that, critics often argue that it was not democratically agreed upon, even though we know that later on the Fourth National Assembly chose to adopt the document as Nigeria's constitution after it was inaugurated in 1999. What is your thought and opinion on all of this?
You see, in commenting on the Nigerian constitution, we must make a difference between politically sentimental assertions and deep understanding of constitutional making process.
Can we remove the sentiments totally from all that is happening within the polity?
Yes, I want to get. I'm laying a basis for my intervention.
Okay.
And by my intervention, what I mean is that we must make a clear distinction between sentimental political assertions, which are for political gains,
and
a deep introspective analysis of the trajectory of our constitutional development. And it is the latter that will give us a clear roadmap as to where we are going. Anything predicated on sentiments, on emotions, will only lead to a perverted conclusion. And I will say this, that the 1999 Constitution is nothing but a regurgitation of the 1979 Constitution. If there is any difference between the 1979 and 1979 Constitution, it will be possibly less than 7.5%, if I'm right. So if you are making criticism of 1999 Constitution, those criticisms also apply to 1979 Constitution. But there's a difference between letters of Constitution and spirit of Constitution. I would say first and foremost, the constitutions are not either being followed to the letter, they are also not spirit of constitutionalism. That is a major problem. No matter how well drafted the constitution is done, if the letter and the spirit is not followed, you cannot get results. Then secondly, as to the provenance of the 1999 Constitution, it is true, it was put in place by a military decree. But in legal theory, there is a theory of the ground norm, which means that in any society, there must be a fundamental legal basis upon which other legality will follow. And as of today, the ground norm in Nigeria is 1999 Constitution by virtue of Section 1. So for you to emanate a fresh new legal system, it's either two-way. It's either you follow the existing procedure of the existing legal system, in which case Section 9 of the 1999 Constitution, or you carry out an insurrectionary revolution by which you uproot the entire system. Those are the two options that we have. And of course, all of us know the disruptive and the dangerous effects of going by way of outright revolution. So my own take is that even within the context of the 1999 Constitution, there is no form of amendment that we want to do that we cannot do so far we have the necessary consensus of the requisite threshold as stipulated in the Constitution. And what is the threshold? 4/5 of the members of the National Assembly,
2/3,
and 2/3 of the state assembly.
Yes.
So my understanding is that, and the constitutional review effort being done currently by the next Senate has not given any limitation. There's no no-go area. So people who feel strongly that there is a need to fundamentally restructure Nigeria are free to come up with memoranda and mobilize the requisite support to be able to do so. In the National Assembly, for instance, in the Senate, you need 88 senators to support any form of amendment. And an amendment, by my understanding of the law, could include substitution. So there's nothing in the 1999 Constitution that says you cannot substitute. There's nothing that says you cannot even go by way of unitarism. There's nothing that says you cannot go back to regionalism. There's nothing that says you cannot alter allocation of constitutional power. The only requirement is that you comply with Section 9, by which you have 4/5 of the member of the National Assembly and 2/3 of the State Assembly resolution supporting such amendment. So we must make a distinction between political statements just making it to undermine the existing structure without any foresight as to how we can even go forward and achieve our aim. I'm an avowed supporter of devolution of power and genuine federalism in Nigeria, and I've never hesitated to say it. But of course, my own feeling will not suffice. I will need to convince majority of Nigerians as represented in the National Assembly to agree with my idea, and that is the essence of democratic experience.
You know, Senator Bashiru, I cannot agree more with you, and I know, like most of us know, a majority of Nigerians are aspirational, and that aligns with the general expectation and anticipated outcome of the current efforts at having a more participatory constitution that's people-driven now. At this point, what aspect of the reforms, you talked about devolution of power, and that spiked my interest. At this point, what aspect of the reforms are you more optimistic about, knowing that some areas are even more imperative in terms of timing, like the electoral reforms? We know we'll have an election coming up in 2023, and there are others that are equally needed and expedient that would help in calming frail nerves. I do know, of course, that the process is vast and that areas being considered also are quite large. But where are you most optimistic, and that changes might begin to happen or might happen this time around?
Be very honest with you, I cannot, using my own feeling, determine what the train of thoughts of other members.
I know that. I am just asking you a personal question. Actually,
will be the thinking of the majority. But if I will talk about my own expectation, and I stated at the plenary on Wednesday when we are considering our assessment for 2 years that I'm in a somewhat advantageous position to speak as to the expectations of Nigerians from the National Assembly, being the spokesperson of the Nigerian Senate and being interfacing with the people, both journalists and non-journalists. The expectation of Nigeria is that the Coordinating and Constitution must address the issue of devolution of power.
Exactly.
We must unbundle many of the legislative powers given to the National Assembly and ipso facto the National Executive. We must also look at the cost of governance as part of the process of moving forward. A situation whereby 5.9 trillion of a 13.8 trillion budget is used for the purpose of recurrent expenditure would not augur well for development. People are also concerned, and I said I'm also personally concerned about the leadership production mechanism through our electoral process. And I believe, as the Senate President Dr. Ahmed Lawal has said, before we proceed on our summer recess, we should be able to complete the process of enactment of a new electoral act, and of course complete our work on the 1999 Constitutional Amendment and pass it on for return in the State Assembly. So I'm optimistic that this year will be an eventful year that will be a harvest of some of those legislative and constitutional reform.
Distinguished, I know you talked about you talked about restructuring earlier on when we were, in the course of our conversation. I'd like to go back to that issue and talk about a bit on the clamor for restructuring. And there are several descriptions out there on the likely, outlook or what the restructuring will be. What's your thoughts on this? Put that against the Constitution, Nigerian's Constitution at independence, and how it operated with the devolution of power as at that time to the regions, and now the regions, it also made allusions, or in fact not just allusions, but specifically depicted and showed how fiscal federalism, I beg your pardon, would take place. Put that against each other, and please speak to the issue of restructuring in your own view now.
I think we must look at it from the point of view of one, the structure of our government. At independence, the understanding of the founding fathers is we should have a federal system of government. The simple answer is that today, I don't believe that we have a federal system of government. What we have is a constitution in name federal, but in reality unitary, and both in terms of allocation of constitutional powers, by which more than 66 items are enumerated on the exclusive legislative list, including mundane issues as registration of business name, copyrights, and so on and so forth, marriages, and there's some other items that are actually fitted for the federating units. Secondly, we also have what I would call a situation whereby the federating units have become atrophied because of the division and subdivision to the 36 structure that we have. The reality is that as of today, if not for allocation from federal government, largely more than 90% of this so-called federating units cannot even be able to pay the salary of their workers.
And as a prelude to our next conversation, I would like to bring you a teaser, just to give you an idea of what's to come.
Nigeria dai ƙasa ce wanda Allah ya shirya sa ta masaniyansa. Wato muna da Hausa, muna da Igbo, muna da Yoruba, wannan dai su ne manyan abin nan yare da muke da su. kuma ina ganin cewa an muka haɗa kai muka zauna lafiya zai fi mana, saboda Allah ne wannan shirin ba mutum ba ne, kuma da yardan Allah in muka yi haka za mu fi cin gaba. So ina ɓo ndị otu anyị bụ Igbo, because mụ ọnụ nwe mbụkwa onye Igbo by virtue of na amụ m ebe a ka anyị tinyekọta isi anyị ọnụ ka anyị bili n'udo. Ọ nwere ebe eji nsogbu eje nọ na ike nke Chukwu ka o ji wee kee anyị otu ahụ, ka onye Hausa, ka onye Igbo, ka onye Yoruba, si anyị ka anyị bili n'udo. So and enwe m olileanya na anyị tinye njikọta ọnụ together that Nigeria ga-abụ obodo ọma.
My next set of guests are as intriguing as they come. She is popularly known as the Queen Mother, Mama Diaspora. She's Chief Amina Temitope Ajayi. Welcome to Insight, Ma.
Thanks.
I also have a journalist, public relations practitioner, and political economist, Dr. Abubakar Jimoh, here with me in the studio. Welcome to Insight.
Yeah, thank you.
First off, I must congratulate you on your unveiling, Ma, as the brand ambassador for Itiala. Congratulations.
Yeah, we thank God.
If I recall correctly, you were selected based on your penchant and zeal for national unity, patriotism, and I must say unbiased representation of Nigeria and our national values, particularly abroad. In your opinion, how important has it become for us as a people to have a united front and collectively stand against that which stands against our continued existence as a nation?
Yeah, you see, it's hard because let's take a deep breath. Let's take a sense of, there's no nation in the world. You can never see any, they are all united. Is it United Kingdom? Is it United States of America? Is it Paris? Is it Germany? Even Ghana. Nobody talks about religion. Nobody talks about race. Everybody is one. I'm praying as a mother because it's eating me up. Because of my future. The generation yet unborn. This idea, I'm this, you are that, should be erased. That's why God will bless the Nigerian government for this National Youth Service Corps. Mm. They are together. They don't know religion. Mm. They don't know tribe or race, gender. They are all one. When we are one, we're very strong. They say united we stand, divided we fall. You see, I keep on saying it. My life is for the young adults. I love them. They call me Mama. Mm. Now they're calling me Mama Mieti. I love them. I don't want my country to burn. I don't want this thing to be transferred or transcended to the next generation.
Well, I must agree. Of course, I'm sure the responsibility of moving this country forward falls on all of us. And Dr. Jimoh, I am curious about your position on, rather where you stand, because there's been this argument as to where or how much so the elite has contributed to the continued division in the country. I mean, along ethnic lines and nationalities. I don't know if you're aware of the recent comments attributed to the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, where he referenced the elite not playing its part or doing just as much, to bring Nigerians together. Is this an argument that you concur with and agree with?
Yeah, thank you very much. First and foremost, as a political scientist, a journalist, a public relations practitioner, I think the Vice President hit the nail on the head straight away. It takes a lot of courage because it's also part of the national elite. We are all elites, political elite, the religious elite. I want to say, without any fear of contradiction, that most of the problems we have, heating up the polity, is generated and caused by the Nigerian elite. If you look at the ordinary, for the poor masses at the grassroots level, they are doing their businesses, relating, cohabiting, coexisting. We do have this tradition where there's an ordinary disagreement between the elites and they decide to recruit the masses and whip up sentiment here and there. It could be religious, it could be political. So the elites are at the heart. The elites are the heart of the problem we have, and also to a large extent they are also going to be part of the solution. So that is why I'm very happy that the Vice President has given a clarion call for all of us to stand up. The Nigerian political elites, the religious elites, everybody, all hands must be on deck for us to search for peace, to seek for peace, and involved in the peace building process. Because without peace, there can never be any national unity. And without national unity, there can never be development.
Let me take you up on the first question that I asked Mama Diaspora on how imperative and how urgent it has become for us to have a common front, I beg your pardon, in the quest to remain one. I mean, seeing all that is happening, the simmering tension, prolonged division and suspicion of one another and all of that. How important does it become for us at this point in time to present a common front and send the message that indeed, yes, we're from different tribes and religions, but we're still one.
Yeah, we must come. What the Vice President was saying is that all the elites, everybody must come out of the ethnic trenches that we are falling into in the recent time. We need to come out of the ethnic trenches and forge a common front. Those bonds that actually held us together years before now, we started having all these kind of falciparous tendencies, centrifugal forces rising up and coming. Some are driven by selfish interest, not altruistic motive. So the Vice President's call is very germane, and it's for all of us, and that was why I'm very grateful that I'm appearing on this program, because the issue of national peace is an assignment for all of us. We need to involve in the peace building process and find a common front. The federal government over the years, as a student of politics, has tried its best in bringing all the building blocks of national unity, that things that actually can unite us. And that was why I am very happy that Mama Diaspora made reference to the issue of national, to the NYSC,
yes,
dated back almost 48 years ago. And that has been a very strong, a unique selling point for Nigeria to forge national unity. We had, there was also the introduction of federal character. Also, there has been a conscious and concerted effort on the part of government to forge a common front to foster cohesion. Because without cohesion, there can never be, without unity, there can never be progress, there can never be development. So to that extent, for every concerned citizen, Nigerian, we must ascribe to the process of forging national unity and peace in the country. I'm very excited that you have brought this topic to the fore.
Yeah, and of course,
it is quite germane and topical now.
Yes,
it is the hottest commodity in town. Issue of peace and national unity, the challenge, the quest for peace and national unity. We have never had a tribal member than now, before now. So this is the greatest point for us to be on deck and for us to continuously search for peace.
Well, Mama Diaspora, you are from a generation where, I mean, you are Yoruba, I mean, and just only recently you were recognized by a group from the north. I mean, you're from a generation that understands our history, that knows where we're coming from, that knows a bit about just how bad it is to fight and what it means and how important it is to get over that and to move and forge ahead as a people. When you see some of what's been playing out in across the Federation, how does it make you feel? And what message would you like to give to young persons who are being used as agents of, to cause troubles and crises in parts of Nigeria? What's the message you'd like to give to them? And of course, those using these persons as minions as well.
You see, this is divine. I think the Almighty God is ready to wipe away the tears of all the Nigerians, especially my young adult. Peace, unity, prosperity, and economic development, they are all interwoven. To my greatest shock, the president of the Meeti Allah Dr. Badijo. He said, Mama, he said, I'm married to an Ogbomosho woman. I said, give me a break. Ogbomosho. He called his wife. Yoruba? Ah. Money Yoruba, only Mama, Yoruba, ni mi omo Ogbomosho. What?
That means in English that I'm Yoruba, I'm from Ogumosho. I mean, just for the benefit of those who do not understand
Yoruba. The young lady
Yoruba.
that cooks in his house is an Indigo young lady. In his in his office. In his office, I saw Indigo. I saw everybody there, all happy. Maybe because they are young adults. In that office of the Mayor Tiala, I don't think they even know what is called tribe. No tribe. I saw them, I was astonished. I said, what is going on? Oh Lord, is this what you brought me here to see? Because going there is divine. What I saw there, tears was coming down my eyes. Then it gave me nostalgia. I think maybe we should go back to our former national anthem. Nigeria, we hail thee. Our home and our mother's land, native land. Though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. And I always add another one. Whether a woman or a man. Because I don't want them to say, oh, she's a woman or he's a man. You see, my generation, my children, I'm appealing to you. Forget about this. Embrace yourself. You guys are smart. The future is in your hand. Don't fight again.
I'll just jump in here now so we don't leave Dr. Jimoh, I mean, for too long idling.
When I talk about my young adult, I'm emotional.
That's understandable. That's understandable. Of course, some of the issues that Mama Diaspora has raised are relatable. Dr. Jimoh, you would agree with me. I mean, it's peace is integral, and there's no development without peace. Or is there an alternative to peace?
Obviously, there's no alternative to peace. Peace is an integral part of national development. It's part of the development matrix. For us to develop, we need peace and we need national unity. We need cohesion. What has been happening recently as a communicator, I believe there is too much abysmal gap of mutual incomprehension between various ethnic divides. People misunderstanding what I may call a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy and stereotyping. And once we indulge in stereotyping, before you meet somebody, you already have an idea, a fixated idea of how the person is going to behave. That self-fulfilling prophecy and stereotyping is not helping matter. We need to shy away from that. It's also heating up the politics. So if you have some certain ethnic groups have been configured to behave in certain ways. And there are some expectations before you even, and the heart-rending aspect of this is that the younger ones are also getting into the ethnic trenches. The elites are dragging everybody into the ethnic trenches. Because the political elites, why are we very important, the religious elites, is we show the way forward. We offer leadership. And the people...
So invariably, we're sowing a culture, I mean, that would not benefit us in the long term. If we do not break this culture, it becomes systemic, and then it becomes part of us, and it may be difficult to break eventually. I mean, at this point, what do we do? I mean, we have a program on national reorientation. I mean, Mama Diaspora practically just, I don't know, she just read out the national anthem.
Yeah.
What do we do at this point to break out of that circle? I mean, pardon me, but we keep talking about the problem. How about the solutions here?
Okay.
Yes, please go ahead first.
Okay,
Dr. Jimoh, we'll take you and then we'll come back.
We need, basically,
Yes.
we don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Okay.
Certain things have been put in place to strengthen national unity and integration. We just talked about NYSC.
Yes.
We talked about the federal character.
Yes.
We talked about so many other things that have been already incorporated, even our social studies as we're growing up in the school. So we need to go back to them, make them work. All those building blocks of national unity and national integration, we are not inventing the way. Let it work.
How about the Nigerians?
And again, another important,
Sorry, Dr. Jimoh. Yeah, okay, please land on that point. Yes.
aspect of the issue of national integration and national peace we must strive towards social justice.
Okay.
We must strive towards fairness, equity.
Okay.
Even people are agitating, they want to go to a separate way. It will solve matters. Atomization, dismembering the nation is not the answer. Even if you divide and bifurcate the nation into families and call them nations,
Okay.
and call them states, it will help matter once social justice, equity, and fairness is missing. It's a basic ingredient of national unity.
Please go ahead.
So this is where political elites, religious elites, everybody must strive towards ensuring that it's not only the job of government.
But
And
of
people
course.
say government, who is government? We are part of government. Government of the people, for the people, and by the people. To that extent, by extension, we are part of government. So the idea, there's also another dangerous trend whereby there's a high level of suspicion. Government comes out with a very lofty policy. People begin, before it realizes it's already dead on arrival, people are beginning to attack it, people are beginning to eliminate it. Let's, for a while, give peace chance. Let's come to the round table and dialogue. We need to judge or not to war. So that is exactly the clear message that I think the Vice President is communicating.
Great. You wanted to add something earlier, Ma. Please go ahead.
Yes, you see, thank God I'm in front of the whole world right now. I want to appeal to our Baba, the President. He should start giving young adult political posts. I see their intellectual property. Maybe they should even create a ministry of entrepreneurship.
There's a ministry for youth that encourages such ventures and entrepreneurship.
I think it's
and
more
all
of
that.
sports.
And there's also the Not Too Young to Rule Act. I mean, it's a law already and it's enforced.
Maybe they should
So,
start
but
employing them.
that's something else.
Yes.
It's the point is sometimes
Political appointments.
for me, and this is a personal opinion that I hold, I think the ball is now in the courts of young persons or young adults, among diaspora, as you've said repeatedly, to now play their part. Because I think the two has been, I mean, if you have the two, why not go there and show us what you've got? The bill is there, the environment has been created. Maybe they are not just taking advantage of it, or is the environment choking them? I mean, well, I don't know. Dr. Juma, would you like to say something about that?
Well, I think from my own interaction with youth, because I superintend over a department that relates with the youth, particularly the youth corpus, the NYSC.
Okay.
I've seen energy. I've seen I've seen energy and zeal and determination and high level of patriotism.
Okay.
All these youth wants is to be galvanized into the task of nation building. People are yearning to work. People want to work. I have several applications with me now. People are looking for CVs, over 500. With me, people are yearning to work. People come to me day in, day out and say, okay, even if it's to clean somewhere, I want to clean. And that was why I was very happy when the Honorable Minister of State for Labour and Productivity, my dear friend, the Honorable Minister Festus Keyamo, brought the idea, or the very visionary idea, of creating jobs for local government. There are people who have not actually worked in their lives, and they want to work. They want to test it. They want to know what working for government, what is like social work. That was very, very impressive. And government has so many other products, Empower, so many other projects that have been lined up, but we need to social market them. Not many people are aware. Not many people know. Do we need to social market them?
I can assure you that there are thousands of beneficiaries, Dr. Jimmy. Yeah. Thousands of them, hundreds of thousands, as a matter of fact.
Talent that are still well, they know about it quite alright, but how to access it is also a major hindrance.
Yep.
So government cannot give job to everybody.
Of course.
To that extent,
that is why government encourages entrepreneurship and
anybody, private sector organization, bodies who want to come into.
We're totally out of time now, but just before I let you go, I'd like for both of you to drop your parting words on the imperatives for national unity and social cohesion. I'll begin with you, Mama Diaspora. Just briefly and quickly.
Yeah. My appeal is to our president. If he can appoint 3 youths, a Yoruba, a Hausa, a Fulani, and Indigo, they will love him. If you know how to deal with young adults. They are babies. They will do anything they want. He wants. They will feel he wants them into the opinion. Put them on the table. What do you think? Use their brain. Use their intellectual property. The government will be shocked.
Thank you so much.
The solution for this country.
Dr. Juma, real quick, please.
Yeah, my parting word is that our cultural diversity, political diversity is our strength. The unity of this purpose we cannot trade it off. We are giant of Africa today because of our population size, because of our landmass, and which is to the envy of some other countries. So we need to tenaciously hold to that. So the indivisibility of this country is not negotiable, and we must all work towards achieving that, sustaining that. That is my parting word.
I want to thank you both for coming on this program. It's been an interesting conversation with both of you. Queen Mother, popularly known as Mama Diaspora. I mean, she's one known across the Federation. I want to thank you so much for coming, Chief Amina Temitokwe Ajayi. Thank you so much for coming on Insight. Journalist, public relation practitioner, and Dr. Abubakar Jimo. I also want to thank you so much for your insights on this very delicate, quite important subject matter as well. Thank you so much for coming on Insight.
Thank you. Great opportunity. Thank you.
I love you all.
Elizabeth Amoru is up next with the Media Review segment.
Gender-based violence prevention initiatives seek to facilitate change by addressing the underlying causes and drivers of violence against women and girls. To assess the impact of gender-based violence on the victim and society, the media cannot be ignored. Media reporting on sexual and other forms of gender-based violence facilitates advocacy with decision makers and communities to ensure protection of the vulnerable in society. How do we protect the victim while gathering facts to put an end to the menace? My guest, Ladi Bala, President, Nigeria Association of Women Journalists, NAWOJ, will provide insight. Mrs. Ladi, thank you so much for coming on Insights.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, reporting gender-based violence is a serious aspect of journalism because it involves investigation. Could you tell us the roles involved in reporting such cases?
As journalists, we really have a role to play when reporting such issues because it's important. We are dealing with somebody that has been violated and that person is going through some traumatic kind of experience. So as a journalist, when you are to report such issues, you must not concentrate on the identity or privacy of the victim or survivors and don't pry into the privacy of that person. Your concern is around the issue. You must make sure that you cover all the angles to the incident. But the identity of the survivor is very important when reporting it. You don't mention the person's name as name. You may talk about the age, but describing even where the person lives is another problem. Just concentrate on the issue. Rather, the person that you need to really open up about his or her identity is the perpetrator. Because we are talking about, we have come to the point that we are now saying that perpetrators must be named and shamed. It's very important we do that. Even while we wait for, we trust the legal system to do the needful. But I believe that as media and journalists, we need to name and shame these perpetrators. They are the ones that we should expose their identity, what they do for a living, and their state of mind and why they get themselves involved, why we believe that they get themselves involved in this kind of nefarious activities. But the identity of the victim and survivor must be protected by the journalists when reporting such issues.
When reporting such issues, well, over the years, I think it's all about shaming the victim and covering the perpetrator. How do we correct this anomaly?
When we talk about sexual and gender-based violence, we are not just talking about the rape issue. There are so many issues that surround gender-based violence. We have people that have been physically violated, emotionally, psychologically. People are going through a lot. And most of these perpetrators are people that are very close to them, you know. So why do you now focus on the victim? Why not focus on the perpetrator? So, but how do you go about it? We say there must be a strategic way of reporting these issues, and journalists must understand this perspective, and they must understand the gender issues. What are the gender issues? How do you present gender issues in such a compelling way, you know, when putting your story, that it will elicit the right response from stakeholders, as well as give that survivor the confidence, you know, that they can move on. The survivors, they can move on with their lives, you know, while these issues are being looked into by the court of law. So that is why we organized the training yesterday, and we brought experts, you know, to discuss these issues. We brought somebody from the civil society, a gender activist that's, you know, spoke to journalists on how best, you know, they can report this issue. We also brought the national president of FIDA, who also exposed journalists on those windows, you know, that can be explored to get justice for the survivors. So these are the effort we are actually making to see, because our people need to have the skills. When you don't have the skill and you lack the capacity, to me it's a sensitive area, and it should be a specialized area of reporting. And so people need to understand the kind of language they will use and how they present the story, because the media is all about, journalists is a storyteller. So how do you tell your story in such a way? You know, how do you tell your story in such a way that you don't cause harm, you know, to the person that you are trying to protect? So these are what we are trying to do, and we started it just yesterday. We trained over 40 gender journalists within Abuja, and then gender activists, and we hope to replicate such training across the 36 states. Currently, we're trying to enter into partnership with FIDA, because FIDA is a reliable partner in this issue, on this issue of sexual and gender-based violence. So we need their expertise, and because they come to tell us what windows to explore when reporting such issues, so that as a journalist you don't run yourself into trouble, because we are dealing with legal issues here. So the national president of FIDA was at hand. You know, she provided us with all those insights, and I believe that for those that got the training yesterday, I'm sure when they put out their stories there, we'll certainly see some difference in addressing these issues.
Interesting. Now, before I take you on the issue of confidentiality, shaming the victims seems to be a societal issue. Why is this so?
We need to redefine, you know, what constitutes news. We must not assume the coloration of the norms and culture of the society when we are reporting, because it's a stereotype. People always believe that the woman is to be blamed in every situation, which shouldn't be so. Let's look at the validity of the issues, the incident, what really happened. Let's talk about the perpetrator rather than the victim. It's a societal issue, like you rightly mentioned, but I think we just have to go around it and correct that abnormally. As far as I'm concerned, it shouldn't be so. We always have two people in a crime. For crying out loud, when we are talking about rape or sexual violence, it's something that has been done against somebody's consent, against somebody's will. What about that 3-month-old girl, you know, that somebody just violated sexually? What has that girl done? And why should you concentrate on her? But even if you are going to report such issue, we should talk about the effect of that damage upon the life of that girl, but not to expose her identity. You can say, okay, a 3-month-old girl has been violated by so person, you know, and then you concentrate more on the person, but you talk about the impact of that upon the life of the girl, the psychological impact, the trauma that girl will go through, you know, the stigma. I know for some they hardly recover. For those that are already maybe a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, you hear the testimony of people that have gone through this kind of experience. The trauma is more or less like a lifelong, you know, experience. They don't forget it completely. They hardly forget it. It always comes back.
And now, looking at confidentiality again, it is actually an aspect of reportage of this nature that cannot be ignored. But how do we protect the interest of the victim?
What will make a survivor to open up to you and describe what really happened and who was involved is when you assure that you have assured that survivor that his or her identity will be concealed, that you will not go beyond saying what you are expected to say, that you will not expose that person to another attack. One of the reason why survivors don't talk is because sometimes the perpetrators will still come after them or come after their family when they know that they are not exposed and that they are likely not to go scot-free. They find a way of getting back to the victim or the victim's family. And again, some people don't really want that because they believe that the issue could just go viral and then the life of either their daughter or their son will be in limbo, because society may want to make jest of them, you know, eventually that people do such things. So we talk. It's important as journalists and as media practitioners, we take that into consideration anytime we are reporting such issues. We should conceal. That's why I keep saying that the identity and the privacy of the survivor must be concealed. But for that of the perpetrator, will have to find a way around it to expose that person without necessarily putting the survivor's life at risk. So it is a whole lot of there are a whole lot of challenges around the issues, but I know there are issues that are surmountable, and when we all are ready to face this monster, you know, called sexual and gender-based violence in our society, I strongly believe that we'll overcome.
We'll overcome.
Yeah.
Ladibala, President, National Association of Women Journalists, NAWOJ, thank you so much for your contributions and insights.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it. I want to use this opportunity to thank NTA for doing a great job in promoting, in speaking against sexual and gender-based violence. I hope other media organizations across the country will borrow a lead from NTA. It is our collective responsibility, and we must all rise up against it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that's it on this episode of the program. Do join us same time next week for more on Insight. I'm Nnamdi Odipo.
And I'm Elizabeth Omori. Do say something when you say something. We'll see you next week.